Hi guys, and welcome back to Legacy K. We recorded this one on Monday last week. I apologize, I'm quite behind. Also, I'd like to say that I have discontinued casting every single Monday night. Maybe I was just a little hasty and wanted to get as many videos out as possible, without acknowledging the fact that some matches are just, some games are just not good. You might say good game every match, but that's not true, because some games are super boring. And if and when I have recorded and casted really boring games, I apologize for them. So let's get started with Show and Tell versus Death Shadow. We're going to cast this one because Kevin is playing some crazy stuff. And I don't know, this is a pretty awesome Delver versus Big Bad combo matchup. I believe that Andrew is mulling here, and Kevin has already won the die roll, so that's probably step number one for Delver. He's just playing good old crazy shit. We got Death Shadow in here. We got a bunch of Wastelands, some Stifles, some Spell Pierces. Let's just stop the Show and Tell player from doing anything he wants, and then kill him with ridiculous stuff that we found in our modern box. AKA Death Shadow. Is that card going to get banned? I don't know. Probably not in Legacy. It's not that good, although I lost to it the other day. Not salty. Doesn't matter. Andrew is busily chatting. Andrew is busily keeping? Cool. Just on the draw, and he bottoms his scry. Or is he on the play? He looks like... Alright. My apologies, guys. This is a turn one ponder, yeah. Kevin appears already disinterested in this game. He's like, oh man, I just can't believe it. This guy's a ponder. I don't know what the records were at this point in the night. I may have picked them because they were both 1-0 or 2-0, or I may have picked them because I wanted to see this Death Shadow Delver list. We've named it Death Shadow here, UB Death Shadow, because I think that that's probably the most accurate name around these days. And but we should acknowledge the fact that Delver probably does more heavy lifting in the deck than Death Shadow does. It's a bit threat light though, honestly. I don't think that there's any snaps in here. That thing's too expensive. And so we're probably just dealing with the threat base of Death Shadow, Delver, and tapping out a Gurmag Angler. Here's a turn one Delver. I believe that guy is almost always going to resolve. The Show and Tell player just can't really afford to force a Delver, even if it's going to eventually kill him, especially in the face of an almost omnipresent Daze. Especially when you just want to jam your combo through and you know that the Delver player can't beat a Grizzlebrand or an Emrakul, you're basically forced to ignore the Delver. And I mean, he's there on turn one, and he's going to become a problem really fast, but we also don't really have a way to kill him in game one, from the combo player's perspective anyway. We'll see if this is like preordained ponder, continue rolling here. If he's allowed to, I think he'll also be able to probably throw Show and Tell in with like Spell Pierce backup. And probably at least one Force. If he really takes his time, maybe if the Delver doesn't flip, then he'll also maybe have like an Ancient Tomb left over, for which to pay for a Spell Pierce as well. I think Andrew is also very conscientiously fetching around no tap or untapped mana from Kevin's side of the table also. So far he has gotten to 2 islands without getting wasted and without getting a fetch stifled. So that's one of the other things that's really important about being on the play.
It's so funny. I've been watching so much Delver, so much Grixis Delver for modern, like the last, or what's on the most.
I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even use this blue mana, if he's just making sure that his Tarn doesn't get messed up. Alright, well there's a Preordain. And he will just let that go. Oh my. What just happened with that Delver?
Didn't check.
So he shocks himself again and gets in with the Delver for 1 and has to pass the turn here. So a couple things happened there. We dazed a Preordain, which is totally fine. I mean, he was trying to develop his hand, and we might not get that many opportunities to daze things again. But because of that, we completely threw away any opportunity to brainstorm on upkeep if he had it. So we had to go with a blind flip, and I have to feel like it wasn't a blind. It wasn't going to flip anyway by the way that Kevin reacted when he drew the card, but he didn't even pause there to show it. It's never a good feeling for the Delver player, but it's okay. Andrew has not done anything. Okay, well it appears that he likely had the brainstorm, which makes the daze a little worse. I feel like I may not daze a Preordain if I am going to untap and be able to brainstorm on my upkeep with a Delver in play. We really need to be hitting for more than 1 here. You can double check our brainstorm here. Untap, flip that Delver. Judge, he revealed a card, but he neglected to flip the Delver over. Kevin will shock himself again, going down to 13 to draw off of his Cycler. And gets in for 3, so now the clock is really starting. I'm sure he's aware of the fact that Andrew has no way to kill that Delver, so it's just going to be the clock for the end of the game. That nice little 15, 12, 9, 6, 3U. The big game plan for Mr. Delvey. And if we flip again this next turn, then we can half that, and it's conveniently a 2.5 turn clock. Okay, so it was only 4. It doesn't change the clock that much because if we flip next turn, then it still ended up being an additional 2 turns. So with the amount of mana that Andrew now has, and the comfort of not actually dying next turn, he could quite possibly cast a Show and Tell here with... Oh, well now with an extra soul land worth of mana, so we're covered Okay, so sneak attack is covered by spell pierce and daze. I was going to say show and tell was covered um, by both at the same time. We'll see if he just chooses to pay. Um, Kevin is doing this to obviously to get the pedal off the table so that he doesn't have red mana. But thankfully for Andrew, that mountain is completely unprotected, or sorry, completely protected because it cannot be wasted. Although he's just apparently using that sneak attack as a test spell. I mean, we're not fighting over that at all. I guess he is just deemed it appropriate given his hand to go down to 5 this turn off of the Delvers and try again next turn. Kevin has nicely left a Verdant Catacombs unused so that he can fetch that Fatal Push away after flipping. It seems like every time I'm playing against Show and Tell, I almost always have like an Abrupt Decay and a Fatal Push in hand, and I wonder to myself why I even play these cards. They're absolute garbage. So it's a race to 0 life here. Kevin appears to be trying to beat Andrew down to the wire here. And despite there being mountains on the other side of the table, we have 0 fear for a lightning bolt. It's not even. It's never going to happen. There it is. Now we officially have lethal next turn. And Andrew has to have something better in his hand than the sneak attack he let go, because he could have paid for that. He could have paid for that sneak attack. So I don't see why he didn't want to just tap out to pay for it so he could activate next turn. Um, but this 100% makes sense because we just we had to we were going to have a sneak attack regardless, and we shouldn't fight a bunch over the first one if we still have time to land the second. Um, this is going to be very narrow here. It completely depends on how much counter magic Kevin has managed to keep. So there's 1 spell pierce down. Storm count is 2. Storm count is 3 as he looks for an additional piece of interaction on the stack here. All right, now we still have a red present on the board. And he's thinking pretty hard, so I don't think. I mean, yeah, I mean, why did we think so hard about that? He's still. I mean, if he's sneak attacking so hard, then one of his cards is a creature. So even if he had the force, he couldn't have fought over that. So as I suspected, he had a Grizzlebrand plus something, and sorry for that awkward cut there. I cut during the sideboards. I just caught an eyeful of a white bordered blood moon there on the bottom of the deck. That has to be completely game over for Kevin here. I think with his 3, possibly 4 watery grave mana base. And complete addiction to dazes and blue and black cards with no basics. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if there's basics in there or not. Hopefully I'm not being foolish. Hopefully there wasn't an island in play on the right side of the table just a couple minutes ago that I am just ignorantly talking over.
Keep in, draw, pass.
No, because it has to be passed. If I name it, it becomes. Yeah, yeah. Huh? It's either the Kazura, Jace, or the enchantment.
If he's pausing this long, I have to guess that there's no Delver. Yep.
I'll name the enchantment. The Abyss? Yeah. Okay. Good? Yeah. And you had the Kazura, right? Kazura. Yeah. I'll take him up.
I'll pick up.
Keep.
Both players just sort of slowly rearranging the tops of their libraries. Casually just having a duel to the death. There's a
Ponder.
second copy of Ponder. And again, like before, no matter what's on top of your library, I'm pretty sure I snap off that Scalding Tarn once I'm done pondering. It'd be great if I just liked one of these cards and then shuffled, but I don't want to let Kevin untap here with an uncracked fetch on my side of the table. Of course, getting a stifle out of Kevin's hand might be quite worth it if you're a little land flooded. I mean, I'm not I'm not going to claim right now that the Scalding Tarn is bait, but it could be. I don't think that that's outside of Andrew's wheelhouse.
I think I lost.
I think this duress came in from Kevin's sideboard. It's quite a nice card for a combo matchup. Hand disruption is the perfect way to answer what show and tell is trying to do, especially early in the game, and it also affords you all the knowledge of what you need to care about and when you're going to lose the fight if you let him get to it. So here we see the Flusterstorm, a Fatty, a Sneak Attack, a Pedal, and that. So one more Tarn and that blue card, I guess, it must be Show and Tell. So we got the Sneak Attack and the Show and Tell. And Duress can pick whatever we like. It'd be interesting to know exactly what is in Kevin's hand when he makes this decision. Whatever he picks might give us more insight as to what he has. Also, after he picks here, if he goes to fetch, I will be sorely disappointed in Andrew if he doesn't fetch in response. Conversely, if Kevin passes the turn, then under no
Down the
circumstances
road a turn, take the show and tell.
Okay.
could he fetch.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that Kevin might pass here, and we'll see if Andrew attempts to crack that Scalding Tarn.
Yes.
So now, armed with the knowledge of the Flusterstorm in hand, alright, no hesitation there. He had no interest in cracking that Tarn. We've still got another one, so it's not end of the world if we get one stifled. And like I was trying to say earlier, stifle on a sneak attack activation, while somewhat narrow, can sometimes completely win a game. So
I mean, this
is a human, yeah.
it could be good to get a stifle out of his hand regardless.
I thought it was human.
All right, so here's the. Well, go ahead and put that Tarn in the graveyard. I mean, it's still there. But here's the little fetch dance. Kevin shocks himself again.
I only played the M12 version, but yours is good. Okay.
But it appears that the stifle was not there.
Take the life. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just a whole lot of posturing there, but nothing really occurred.
And I'll do it again.
And I mean, if the first fetch was good,
Yeah, go ahead.
so we'll see if he gets Mountain here. I have to believe it's Mountain.
I wish this was human. Oh, yeah, see, for the attack. Oh wait, you need combat damage. Yes, yeah. I think I lost though. Oh, good work.
Alright. Pedal. Then
I mean, did he get that? Maybe off the Ponder. Yeah, he kept Show and Tell on top of the library last turn. Or rather, after he pondered, but before he got to rest, he untapped without fetching, drew his Show and Tell, and then fetched twice and put it on the stack, right? So I believe during a ponder he did do his due diligence and keep the Show and Tell a card deep. Okay, pays for the days. Show and Tell's still on the stack. He knows that there's a Flusterstorm in hand, but he wins with the Force here, right? I guess there was no point to dazing ahead of it if you did have the Force. But then again, if he had the pedal out, I don't see the point in dazing. Alright, so Show and Tell is resolving. I can't think of anything that Kevin could put on the table that is going to beat,
I hope you draw first of all.
I don't know, what I'd assume is Grizzlebrand. Hiya. Okay. What a fight. Okay, so that's gotta sting a little bit. So Kevin knew that he couldn't quite beat a Show and Tell right there. Passes the turn, and then your opponent just casts Show and Tell.
What is these draws? This is easy. It's like 8 top decks. Seriously. Oh, you named it.
it goes on play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
With a nice 10 cards in hand, maybe Andrew will just be content with just laying a land and a pedal and discarding to hand size. Kevin has already picked up his sideboard.
Go.
Okay. Go clean up.
Yep.
Yeah,
Let's go 2 lands and passes the turn.
Guess I should have attacked.
And as soon as next turn, Andrew will start the climb back up to starting life totals. And Kevin shocks himself again here. I don't know if there's a sequence of draws that could make Death Shadow beat Grizzlebrand in a fight. I mean, obviously he can never fly, but I mean he can get quite large. If no, there's no way that you could put something in the way of Grizzlebrand and attack on the ground. I have to feel like Grizzlebrand is simply too large, and the life gain is too much to beat here.
Death Shadow?
Death Shadow.
Sure. What about Death Shadow?
Death Shadow.
Shadow of a Shadow?
All right. So the 2 shadows are 3/3s. If Andrew attacks and puts Kevin to 3, then he will be facing down a pair of 9/9s, and he will be at 17. Wow, that's actually really interesting. Unfortunately, with the amount of cards that Andrew can see, I find it highly unlikely that he can't make an Emrakul this turn.
Oh, but he'll get so big.
Is he thinking about forcing the second Death Shadow? Oh, come on.
Okay.
I thought that we were gonna have. Yeah, there we go. All right.
Okay.
Look, 2 9/9s coming on up.
Have to do that. And
So I mean, if Andrew didn't start this turn with 8 cards, then it would have been possible for a pair of Death Shadows to get insanely large here. But I have to think that there's like sneak attack into Emrakul here, and Kevin's gonna have to pack it into a nice clean attack for 22 in the air.
I guess one should have attacked. Crap, 8. Or 8. 19.
We can see his attitude towards basics shift as soon as he gets past the 3rd one, and I'm okay with that. Although that's strange. Why are we tapping 2 red mana at once? Oh. Okay. Well, that's not what I expected to happen. And what does that?
Pass?
Oh, he was afraid of the 18 damage from the Death Shadow. That's awesome. I can't say that I've seen this board state before. Yep. Now we can't do nothing.
Options draw 7, but you don't want
I mean, Kevin's right. You can draw 7 here. Play a mountain. Okay. And no blue mana available, so we cannot stifle this Emrakul.
Okay.
And here's the infamous 22.
Massive.
Sorry for that rough cut there. That was a little gross. I would have preferred to do that better, but I messed up. Interestingly, Andrew deigns not to attack with 22. He didn't want the clean, beautiful 22 damage with the 6 Annihilator.
Delver power play.
Kevin on the play again with the turn 1 Delver. Looks quite nice from his chair, especially because Andrew hasn't played anything yet. So he's like, yeah, my opponent has 0 permanents. Just how I like it. I think he did tell me that he had perfect victories a few times recently, where opponents have ended the game with 0 permanents against him. Thus is the beautiful interaction between Stifle, Fetchlands, Force of Wills, and Wastelands in a format dominated by Volcanic Island and Underground Sea. We get that first turn Delver, second turn Blind Flip into Probe You, and we're down to 16 life. So this hand... Oh, Andrew, oh no. Andrew played Scalding Tarn, absolutely needs that island that it represents, but did not crack it, and then passed a turn back so that Kevin could untap. I am really terrified of that play actually just ending the game for us, because I mean, if this fetch gets stifled, then what happens? We've got no colored man. Delver hits for 3. Kevin is, if he doesn't have another blue source, but he does have a stifle, then he passes with his mana up, right? If he does have another blue source, we play it now and we can deploy another threat. So we didn't have another threat, but man, maybe it's just me, but I feel like the window for Andrew to successfully fetch for Island is like super narrow now. What are the odds that he doesn't have the stifle? He kept 7, drew off a probe, didn't cast anything because he knows the contents of your hand. If we play Ancient Tomb here, then he knows everything that's going on. And here's an attempted fetch. No, no, no. Now we're in a gross spot where... Oh. I try not to be too hard on anybody, but that was completely unavoidable. When you look at your hand, you need this colored source. Your Delver opponent has tapped out to play the Delver, and you has no mana available. You slam that Scalding Tarn straight into the graveyard. Like, we should not have let Kevin untap here. Okay, well, we've got a Delver swinging. We've got 0 permanents. I think the best possible draw for Kevin here is Island. I don't think... Nope. This is going to be a painful death. So no shuffle. And if we go to clean up here, then we are dead in 4. We're tanking harder than I think is strictly necessary. Okay, maybe that is a hard decision then, because if we're letting go of a ponder that we would need to crawl back into the game, then our hand might actually be pretty close. Discounting the fact that we probably can't beat Force of Will, that maybe Andrew's hand is actually close enough where Island followed by City of Traders is a possible win. Although that doesn't quite jive with letting go of a ponder, because if you did draw Island, I have to feel like ponder would be one of the only things that you could cast on untap. So ponder may very well be part of his line of play for an outs. Okay, so this drops it straight to 2 turns when he tries to crack this, regardless of whether he gets the land or not. We're at 6. Is it cool? Kevin made no move. We successfully found the island. We're going to 3 next turn. Maybe just let the ponder go because his hand was like already ponder. Preordain. Okay. I don't know what's in there, but I'd have to think. Maybe he got rid of the ponder and just kept a bunch of forces, so that if he draws a soul land this next turn, it offered him the ability to show and tell with force backup, and he didn't care about anything else. Protect his hand with a brainstorm. That's quite nice, actually. He gets dazed out. So now he's going to lose the brainstorm and possibly his show and tell. Kevin doesn't care about the show and tells, probably because there are 2 of them. So he just snaps off the Flusterstorm. And I believe, I mean, City of Traders here probably gets played instantly. Show and tell goes on the stack and he has to die, right? Oh, Andrew had the show and tell in hand, so that means he sandbagged it, right? Oh wow, what a sequence! He actually had Lotus Petal under. Oh, that was so close. You know, maybe he had a chance at winning this game if he hadn't gotten his Flusterstorm to rest. Just maybe. He's gonna fall apart to a Spell Piercer. You cannot beat that.